Welcome back. Welcome to the last lecture of week 9. We continue with mutation testing as I had told you all. But instead of looking at mutation testing at a unit level where we change individual program statements by replacing arithmetic, relational operators or variable references, we are going to look at mutation testing at the interface level. So we'll focus on mutation testing for design integration by mutating the call interfaces. So when it comes to design integration, if you work with a programming language like C or even Java, but without any heavy object-oriented features, you just have a class with a few methods and the methods could call each other. The methods need not be polymorphic. The classes need not be inherited. No object-oriented specific features are used. Then it's procedure calls like we saw in call graphs when we looked at graph-based testing. So we look at mutation testing at integration level by considering ordinary procedure calls where parameters are passed and returned when functions and methods are called. In the next module, we will look at mutation testing focusing on call interfaces, but assume that we are working with a programming language that has object-oriented features that are like polymorphism, inheritance, dynamic binding. Java is such an example. In which case the call interfaces look very different because if a method is polymorphic, you need to know which version of the method is called and which version is not. So we split mutation testing at design integration level into two parts. One is, first we look at mutation testing without focusing on anything specific to object-oriented concepts. Then we look at mutation testing by exclusively first understanding different object-oriented concepts and then looking at how mutation testing looks for those kinds of things. That will naturally lead us into other kinds of testing features for object-oriented relationship, which we will continue with in week 10. So integration mutation looks at call interfaces, that is function calling another function, a method calling another method, returning of values. It's also called interface mutation because it focuses on call interfaces. It works by mutating the statements that correspond to the call interfaces. So there are statements that are used as a part of the code of a function where another function call is done. Some parameters are passed and some parameters are returned back. So we consider specifically those statements. They correspond to the call interfaces and we work on mutations specific to those statements. They may not have relational operators, functional operators. They are call interfaces, so they involve function calls, so they pass parameters. So our mutation operators are going to work around the function calls, the caller method, the callee method, and the parameters that are around them. So integration mutation operators typically do one of the following. They change a calling method by modifying the values that are sent to the called method. They change the calling method by modifying the call itself, maybe removing the call, moving the call. They change the called method by modifying the values that enter and leave the method. Typically, values could include parameters and specifically for object-oriented programming languages, they could include variables from higher scope like a parent class, an ancestor class, or variables that are public and so on. We'll see these concepts in detail. We can also change a called method by modifying the statements that return from the method. So typically it's around the call interfaces. There's a caller method, there's a callee method. You change the interface, you change the callee method, you change parts of the caller method, everything around the statement that involves call interface and the return. So without regard to any object-oriented concepts, you can think of 5 simple mutation operators that work with call interfaces. They are the following. The word integration is there here mainly to highlight that these are interface mutation or integration mutation operators. Otherwise, they still deal with the call and the parameters that are passed in the call. So the first one is integration parameter variable replacement, IVPR. Don't worry too much about all these abbreviations. I put them mainly for convenience. What will help is if you can read these terms and get from what they mean in English, get a sense of what is the kind of mutation operator that we are applying. You don't have to memorize or remember these abbreviations. They're just meant to follow standard book notations, especially from the textbook that we are using. So integration parameter variable replacement is one. You could insert unary operators on the parameters that you pass. You could change or exchange the parameters that you pass. You could even delete the call statement. You could modify the return expressions. So we'll see each of them in detail. First one, so let's say a method A calls a method B with two parameters x and y. So you could replace these variables x and y with some other variable of compatible type that lie within the scope of that method call. So if method A calls method B with arguments a and y, parameters a and y, x and y, you could replace x and y with some x prime and y prime, provided the program still compiles. It should be of compatible type. Remember, the mutant which results by replacing x comma y with x prime y prime should still be syntactically valid, should be compilable. So what would this test? This would typically test whether the procedure call has been done with the right kind of variables that have been used. And we don't use variables of incompatible type because otherwise the mutant will not be compilable program. And when we do specific to object-oriented languages, we'll see this. This particular mutation operator will replace variables of primitive types as well as objects. The next kind of mutation operator is unary operator insertion. So what we mean is same thing. Let's consider a method A that calls a method B, let's say with two parameters x and y. You can try replacing x with minus x or y with minus y, or both of them with negations. Or let's say it calls it with x and minus y. Maybe you could remove the negation and see. You could insert several different unary operators as you need it in a method call, in the parameters that are passed to the method call. Whichever programming language you're using, the unary operators provided by that language will help you with this. The next is exchange of parameters. So suppose method A calls method B. Let's take x and y as the arguments again. X and y, maybe the first parameter is x, second parameter is y. And because it's a first parameter is used for a specific purpose, y is used for another specific purpose. Try interchanging the order. Make it yx. Maybe it will matter, maybe it will not matter. So let's say there are a certain set of parameters in a method call. You could exchange that with certain other set of parameters, either by swapping them or by replacing them with newer operators. Like for example, suppose I call a method to compute the maximum of a and b. I could instead call it to compute the maximum of b and a. In this particular case, there may not be a difference. But in certain other cases, like for example, suppose I say subtract a comma b, then does it mean a minus b or does it mean b minus a? So if I do subtract a comma b and do subtract b comma a, then I will know whether I have written the subroutine for subtract correctly. So this is a useful mutation operator. That's just a simple job of exchanging the parameters. The other that you could do is, this is a very powerful mutation operator. What we do is delete the statement that has the method call itself. Normally, when we do unit level mutation, like we mutate, like we saw in the last lecture, when we mutate by replacing one kind of relational or arithmetic operator with some other kind, we don't delete statements there. The control flow graph doesn't get altered too much. We don't delete an assignment statement. We don't delete a decision statement. Unit level mutation operators don't allow for deletion of individual statements. Whereas at the interface level, we are allowed to delete statements that involve calls. This is just to test whether that interface is at all needed or not. And if the interface is absent, what will go wrong? So here I can delete the method call itself. So that's integration method call deletion. So the next question is, if you delete the method call, will the resulting mutant be syntactically valid? Will it compile? So to cater to that, let's say you had the method call and the method was called, it executed and it returned a value. So what you do is, if that method that was originally called had returned a value and that is used as a part of an expression in the caller method, then you replace it with an appropriate compatible constant value. This is just to mimic as if the call happened, but the call itself doesn't happen. So this is a very powerful mutation operator, but is available for use to check whether the call is done rightly at the right place and is needed at all or not. When we are using it for a programming language like Java, we should be careful. The default values should be used for methods that return values of primitive type. For example, if a method returns an object, the method call should be replaced by a call to new method in the appropriate class. In the next lecture in week 10, we will teach you, just to be complete, some basic object-oriented concepts so that you could learn a little more about object-oriented mutation testing. The last of the simple call interface mutation operator just does return expression modification. So it says, suppose a callee returns a particular value or an expression back to the caller, you could modify that return expression. Suppose it says return a plus b. You could say return a minus b or return minus a plus b, things like that. Or you could insert, suppose it says return a, you could insert an unary operator and say return minus a. So these are 5 simple options that are available for mutating call interfaces without specifically worrying about any object-oriented features. So along with this, we will also look at call interface mutation, but in the presence of object-oriented features. So what I'll do in the beginning of next week, week 10, is to first revise some concepts in object-oriented testing. And then we will look at mutation at the integration level, but with features that involve object-oriented testing. So before we do that, I would also like to spend a few minutes telling you about some popular mutation testing tools. So you remember we use JUnit as a popular tool for execution. There are a few mutation testing tools that are built on top of JUnit. It'll be useful if you can try them out. I will point you to some of them. We will not teach the features of these tools, but this is just for your reference in case you would like to use them for mutation testing. So this pit test is one of the popular mutation testing tools for Java and JVM. It works pretty well, and I have used it myself. And it has a long list of mutation operators that it provides. By now you understand how many different mutation operators are there. Of course, the notations, the symbols, the names that it uses for the mutation operators will be slightly different. But it has almost all the mutation operators that we saw. The code for pit test is available, and there is a large Google group that supports it. And, if you want, you could try it out. Here, several different firms have used it, and it's supposed to work pretty well. And it's a popular open source tool. You can pick it up, and you find it on several other places. So pit test is one mutation testing tool. Unlike JUnit, we will not learn the nitty-gritties, but this is just to give you that these kinds of tools exist, because we learn the theory. It will also be good to know what tools are there. So another kind of mutation testing tool that's very popular is the Striker. Striker is another popular mutation testing tool, and it is there for JavaScript, which is a very trending programming language. It's there for C#. It's also there for Scala. Pit test is for Java, the one that we saw just before this, pit test. Striker is available for JavaScript, for C# and for Scala, and is a reasonably popular mutation testing tool. Another popular mutation testing tool is Jumble, and Jumble sits on top of JUnit, directly on top of JUnit. So if you're comfortable with writing asserts, with writing methods in JUnit, Jumble would be another very useful tool that you can use to do unit level, and in fact it also does interface level mutation. But Java interfaces in the presence of object-oriented features like class inheritance and polymorphic methods will look very different. And that's exactly what we are going to see in the next class. So next week, we'll focus a lot on object-oriented concepts to start with. Then we'll look at object-oriented mutation operators for interfaces. Then we will look at object-oriented call graphs and also metrics for object-oriented testing. So there's going to be a lot of object-oriented features next week. And we will reintroduce some basic concepts in object-oriented programming just to make the course complete. So I'll stop here for now. Thank you.